Have you ever wanted to say or in Chinese, but suddenly got confused? Should you use háishì or huòzhě? Many Chinese learners make this mistake because both words can mean or in English, but there is one simple rule that can help you remember them forever. Let's learn it together.
Welcome back to today's Explainer. Consider this your daily session of Daily Mandarin with YuTing. I'm your host and teacher, YuTing, and today I'm going to be guiding you and my incredibly enthusiastic, very curious foreign student, Mark, through a linguistic trap that literally every beginner Chinese learner falls into. We're exploring a tiny little word that causes a massive amount of confusion because, well, in English we have one simple word for it, but in Mandarin, it is a completely different story.
So let me show you exactly what I mean. Just this morning, Mark comes bounding into the classroom. He's holding 2 cups, flashing this huge, proud smile, completely ready to practice his Mandarin. He looks right at me and very confidently asks, "Teacher YuTing,
你想喝茶或者咖啡?
do you want tea or coffee?" I smiled, I took a cup, and then, as a teacher, I had to gently point out that he had just stumbled into a classic beginner's blunder. It's a mistake so common, it's practically a rite of passage.
Section 1. The Great Or Mistake. Okay, let's dive into this and figure out exactly why Mark's innocent question was technically wrong. The root of the confusion here is actually pretty simple, and it all comes back to English. In English, whether you're asking a question or making a statement, you just use the word or. It's a one-size-fits-all tool. But Mandarin? Mandarin is a language that thrives on context. We don't just have one word for or. We have different words depending on the exact grammatical structure you're using.
The word Mark used was huòzhě. Now, it is indeed a conjunction used to show alternatives, and yes, it does translate to or. So if you just look it up in a dictionary, Mark was completely right. It means or. But this is exactly where the dictionary fails you and where real-life language learning kicks in. There's a hidden rule attached to this word.
The golden rule of the or dilemma comes down to this. In Mandarin, you really have to choose between 2 words. You've got háishì and you've got huòzhě. Both mean or, but their jobs are totally different. Huòzhě can only be used in declarative statements. That means you are stating a fact, telling a story, or declaring your habits. On the flip side, háishì must be used in interrogative questions, meaning anytime you are asking someone to actually make a choice, you have to use háishì.
So bringing it all back to Mark's morning beverage offer, the mistake becomes glaringly obvious. The incorrect version of his sentence uses huòzhě, but he was asking me a question. He wanted me to choose. The correct way to say it uses háishì.
你想喝茶还是咖啡?
You're asking a question, so you have to use the question word for or. Pretty simple once you see it, right?
Section 2. The Chinese hot tea cure. Now, if we can't use huòzhě to ask questions, how exactly do we use it in real life? Let's step out of the classroom for a second and into a super cozy everyday scenario. We're going to look at a comforting cultural habit that perfectly demonstrates how this word operates naturally. Consider this beautiful everyday sentence. When it's cold or you're tired from work, drinking a cup of hot tea is extremely comfortable. Do you notice the or in there? It's connecting 2 different conditions, being cold and being tired. Because we are simply stating a truth about feeling comfortable, we use huòzhě.
天冷了或者你工作累了的时候.
It connects those 2 ideas flawlessly without demanding an answer from the listener.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway is this. Declarative sentence equals stating a fact. When I broke this down for Mark, you could literally see the light bulb switch on. Ah, he said, because the hot tea sentence is stating a comforting fact rather than asking someone what they want, huòzhě is the perfect word. He totally nailed it. You are declaring that whether condition A or condition B happens, the result is the same.
And actually, this brings up a really fun little cultural surprise, too. If you spend any time in China or with Chinese friends, you will very quickly learn that hot water and hot tea are basically viewed as the ultimate cure-alls. Feeling cold? Drink hot tea. Tired from work? Hot tea. Got a stomachache? You guessed it, hot water or hot tea. It is so deeply ingrained in the culture as a source of comfort, which makes it the perfect, memorable context for learning how to state a fact with huòzhě.
Section 3. Weekend plans and menus. Of course, Mark immediately wanted more examples. Teacher YuTing, he asks, how else can I use this in my everyday life? So let's move to a couple of highly relatable scenarios. What are 2 things we all love talking about? For sure,
It's our weekend plans and what we're going to eat.
Let's start with the weekend. Here's some fantastic, casual vocabulary for you. We have hiking, which is papa shan. We have playing basketball.
打打篮球
And surfing the internet, shang shang wang. These are super common leisure activities. Now, how do we link them together if we're just describing a typical, lazy weekend where we might do one thing or we might do another?
We bring in our new best friend, huòzhě. Here's how it flows. On weekends, if there's nothing going on, I generally go hiking with students or play basketball. And we could even add, or surf the internet. You are listing multiple alternative activities, but you aren't interrogating anyone. You're just sharing your habits. So, huòzhě links the hiking and the basketball perfectly in this declarative statement.
Let's look at another real-life example, this time about dining out. Imagine you're at a restaurant and you want to state your personal habit to your friends. You say, "When eating out, I generally only drink tea or juice." Because you're stating a fact about yourself, you absolutely have to use huòzhě. If you used háishì here, it would sound completely bizarre. Seriously, it would sound like you were angrily interrogating yourself in the middle of a restaurant. So again, stating a personal habit, that requires huòzhě.
Section 4. Time to practice. Okay, I think you're getting the hang of this. But hearing it is one thing. Doing it is a whole different ballgame. It is time to practice. I want you to play along with Mark in a quick interactive pop quiz based on some everyday situations. Are you ready? Let's test your new Mandarin instincts.
Here is your first fill-in-the-blank question. The sentence means, this is not a problem that can be solved just by making a phone call or writing an email. I want you to really think about the nature of this sentence. Are we asking a question, or are we stating a fact about this problem? Which word fits in the blank, huòzhě or háishì? Make your guess.
And the answer is huòzhě. Mark basically shouted this one out in class, and I hope you got it too. He correctly figured out that since the speaker is just making a firm statement about how difficult the problem is, they aren't asking anyone what they want to do, it's a declarative statement. So, huòzhě is the absolute winner. Let's try one more. Fill in the blank for this one. Do you want to eat at home or go out to eat? Think carefully about the punctuation at the end of that sentence, and think about what the speaker is trying to achieve. Are they declaring a habit, or are they demanding a choice? Lock in your final answer.
And the answer is háishì, boom. Because this is clearly an interrogative question, you are directly asking someone to choose between eating in and eating out. Háishì is the only grammatically correct option. If you used huòzhě here, well, you'd sound just like Mark did this morning with his coffee cups. Section 5. Vocabulary and next time. See? Chinese grammar really isn't always as intimidating as it seems. Sometimes it is literally just about shifting your perspective and realizing that the language wants to be highly specific about what you're communicating. Before we wrap up today's explainer, let's do a really quick review of some of the practical vocabulary we pulled from today's scenarios. Here are 3 everyday words to keep in your back pocket. First, we have rui cha, meaning hot tea, your ultimate Chinese comfort remedy. Next is
电子邮件
meaning email, straight from our problem-solving quiz. And finally, guǒzhī, meaning juice, for the next time you're stating your beverage habits at a restaurant. Remember these words through the stories we just explored, and I promise they'll stick with you much longer than just reading a boring vocabulary list.
Now, making a habit of daily language learning is the absolute key to fluency, so I want to give you a quick sneak peek at what Mark and I will be tackling tomorrow. We're going to look at the particle di, specifically the one used right before a verb to show the state or mode of an action. It's kind of like the Chinese equivalent of adding ly to an English word to make an adverb. It is incredibly common, a little bit tricky at first, but totally fun once you master it.
Which brings me to my final thought for you today. What other everyday Chinese expressions completely confuse you? What words do you constantly mix up? Think about it, maybe write them down, and most importantly, will you join us tomorrow to conquer them? Because Chinese is so interesting when you start peeling back the layers. Great job today. Now you know one more way to sound totally natural in Chinese. See you next time.
Great job! Today you learned the difference between 还是 和或者. Remember, use 还是 when you ask a question. Use 或者 when you give choices in a statement. Keep practicing step by step, and your Chinese will become more natural. If you enjoy learning Mandarin with simple explanations and real examples, subscribe for more lessons. You can also book a trial lesson with me on Preply through the link in my channel profile. See you in the next lesson.